Good morning. Today we are going to discuss the concept of demand and law of demand. Okay. By demand, we mean the desire for a good backed by purchasing power at a particular price in a specific period of time. So, by demand, we mean ability and willingness of a consumer to buy something. In this definition, it must be remembered that a consumer must have purchasing power to buy a good. Okay, so why we demand? The question is why we demand. So, demand we demand because we get some utility from the commodities or goods that we consume. By utility we mean the one satisfying power of a good. Okay, so it's satisfied. Actually, the goods that we consume, those goods satisfy our wants. So one satisfying power of a good is the utility. There is another concept, marginal utility. Marginal utility is the additional utility from one extra unit of consumption. So it is the utility from one additional unit of consumption. So this is marginal utility. So in demand, we can talk about different types of demand like individual demand, market demand, derived demand, joint demand, etc. By individual demand, we mean the demand by a individual. Okay, and market demand is the demand by all the individuals in a market. That means demand by all the consumers in a market, whereas derived demand is a demand for a good that is derived from the demand for another good. It's a derived demand. That means we are demanding one good because we demand some other good, that is derived demand. And there is joint demand, that is demand for two or more goods that are used together. So this is called joint demand. When we use two or more goods together, we call it joint demand. Okay, now there are certain factors which affect the demand. So what are the factors? The first factor is the price of the commodity that we consume or demand. Okay, so the price of the that good affects the demand. Another factor is price of other goods. Other goods means here we consider the substitute goods, complement goods, etc. This is another factor that influences the demand. Another factor is income level of a consumer also affects the demand. There are other factors like weather conditions, taste and preference of the consumer. So these are the factors that affect the demand of a good by the consumer. So when we put this relationship between the demand of a particular good and factors that affect the demand, we'll get a demand function. Actually, demand function shows the relationship between demand of a consumer, demand of a good in terms of factors. Okay, so there is another concept of demand, that is law of demand. We have to consider law of demand. What is law of demand? So law of demand is it states that as price of the commodity increases, its demand falls, other things remaining constant. That means there is inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. As price increases, quantity demanded for good decreases. So this is law of demand. But in law of demand, one thing must be remembered, that it is the relationship between quantity demanded of a good and price, whereas in law of demand, other things remaining constant. That means these other things remaining constant must be added in the statement of law of demand. Okay, so law of demand states that as price of the commodity increases, its demand decreases, other factors remaining constant. So this is the law of demand. Now we should know that the market demand curve is derived from the individual demand curve. That means market demand curve is the summation of the individual demand curve. So this we can draw also, and according to law of demand, as price increases, demand for commodity decreases. Therefore, when we draw the law demand curve in the diagram, we will get a downward sloping demand curve when we measure price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. Okay, so we get the downward sloping demand curve. Thank you.